Welcome to early Africa, 300 BC to 1400 AD. This is Melinda Klein. After Asia, Africa is the largest of the continents. It stretches nearly 5,000 miles from the Cape of Good Hope in the south to the Mediterranean in the north, and extends a similar distance from Cape Verde on the west coast to the Horn of Africa on the Indian Ocean. This overview highlights trade connections between the Middle East and Africa with Europe, while offering a history of social and cultural characteristics unique to African and the African experience within a framework of Indian Ocean trade, African traditions, and the arrival of Islam, elements of the sometimes rugged environment, the existing African ethnic diversity, politics, and of course the economy. Drawing conclusions about social organization, cultural development, and daily life in traditional Africa is difficult because of the extreme diversity of the continent and its inhabitants. The vast majority of Africans lived in small community villages. African lineage groups were very important as kinship ties drew commonality between members and community support when needed. When Islam arrived, most African societies already had well-developed systems of religious beliefs. Like other aspects of African life, early African religious beliefs varied from place to place, but certain characteristics appear to have been shared by most African societies. Like sculpture and wood carving, African music and dance often served religious function. With their characteristic heavy rhythmic beat, dances were a means of communicating with the spirits. African music varied to some degree from one society to another. A wide variety of instruments would include the following: drums and other percussion instruments, xylophones, bells, horns, and also flutes. Indian Ocean trade operated in three distinct regions. Number 1, South China Sea. Number 2, East Coast of India to the Indonesian islands. Number 3, West Coast of India to the Persian Gulf and down the coast of East Africa. A reaction to dwindling resources in an expanding arid landscape across North Africa, hunting nomads and pastoral peoples had to travel farther and farther each generation to provide for their families. This prompted the need and the development of desert trading across arid landscapes. During the 20,000 years that the Sahara has taken to dry out from lush grasslands to the desert it became and continued to dry out, the local people who lived in this growing wasteland migrated either north or south to wetter areas or to the coast. The Sahel is an ecological zone south of the Sahara and north of the tropical forested belt in the south. Geographically, the traders of the Sahel are in the middle between Mediterranean traders in the north and the sub-Saharan traders in the south. Merchants traveled long distances to do commerce in the Sahel centers. Sub-Saharan Africa is a difficult place to get to and migrate within. It is bordered by the Sahara to the north, the Atlantic to the west, and the Indian Ocean and Red Sea to the east. Rivers course through Africa. River navigation is not possible, however, across the continent, as cataracts or tremendous waterfalls occur periodically. African great traditions were rules intended for communication and social order. This intellectual tradition included written language, ethical order, and laws. This cultural legacy dominated common laws and beliefs practiced by the majority of people in Africa. Anthropologists call these small traditions. Ethnicity, or common beliefs and practices, ties social groups together. Diversity is writ large in Africa. One example is language. The next is religious beliefs. Along with techniques in food production and ritual practices that divide kingdoms and cause disagreements between neighboring villages, natural boundaries and ethnicity sets limits of territorial kingdoms. Within kingdoms, a vertical hierarchical structure existed. Gold was processed into objects by 900 AD. This knowledge eventually led sub-Saharan Africans to process iron for cooking pots and weapons. However, the ancient traditional means of metalworking survived in Europe. Smelting iron was a highly regarded secret and known from 1500 BC. Sundadia was a military leader of the Balinki people of West Africa. The Mali Empire was created after a series of defeats to local rule. Mali was located in the Sahel, bordered to the south by the gold-rich Niger River, and included salt fields in the Sahara to the north. In its northern area, they dominated 3 trade centers, including Timbuktu, the wealthiest. Agriculture, the caravan trade, and Muslim culture increased profits by fostering alliances. Ibn Battuta lived from 1304 to 1369. During his lifetime, he traveled greatly, some 75,000 miles in 29 years. This pilgrimage was throughout the Muslim world, including Spain, West Africa, India, and China. He was welcomed wherever he went, a Muslim and scholar originally from Somalia in Africa. Ibn Battuta had an intimate knowledge of the Sahara, a valued caravan guide when necessary. Because of people like Battuta, the trans-Saharan caravan trade expanded throughout the western and southern Sudan, south of Egypt, by 1500. In this photo, the process used to make salt from ancient times is illustrated. Africans dug huge pits for salt and minerals, along with copper and iron used for metal and weapons. Salt and gold were highly prized exports and in demand by traders. Gold was panned from the river Niger. Archaeologists have uncovered mining shafts up to 900 feet deep. Medieval maritime trade in the Indian Ocean connected Europe to Asia through Muslim traders. Chinese and Africans exchanged goods through many of the ports of call along the coastline of East Africa. Ship technology and navigation increased after 1000 AD. The rise of Islam also had a lasting impact on the coast of East Africa. East African merchants enjoyed considerable trade profits by procuring goods to include but not limited to ivory, gold, rhino horns that would be shipped as far away as China. Some of the lavish stone palaces that had belonged to this merchant class are still standing today in Mombasa and Zanzibar.